You cannot avoid dependencies. There's going to be people on the team. I need you to have this done by this time. Otherwise, I can't do this. So there's no way of avoiding that, right? What you want to avoid is the bottlenecks where, holy shit, now the entire team is waiting for one thing and there's a bottleneck and these two people are now doing nothing because we're 2 hours late on something else. The other thing that is important with the momentum is just stay positive, right? If you get negative energy in the room there, it will mess things up because there's going to be negative situations. It's just a matter of how you handle it, right? Hey everyone, this is Heini Zachariassen here and welcome to Founders Weekly, where we tell startup stories you can learn from. We're at the final episode about our 4 days of building a startup. This time about learnings. What did we learn from those 4 days? Would we do it again? And how much can you actually build in 4 days? Also, finally in this episode, we will tell you, did we actually make our goal? Did we get any paying customers? Stay tuned for that. My co-host today is Hassan Bazzi. He is a founder, a developer, and a friend. He's also our guest. He was a part of the 4-day build that we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Hassan.
Thank you, Heini.
Great to see you. Where are you today?
I am in Lebanon, in Beirut, Lebanon.
Wow, what's it like there?
It's very chaotic. It's a little sad. It's also nice. I don't know. It's everything,
mixed emotions.
Everything at once. Yeah. I'd say things have been hit pretty hard here. It's been very devastating, but it's a beautiful place overall. So and people are good at kind of coming back to life, which is good. Peace has been elusive. It's been like just been on and off, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm glad to be back, at least for a little bit for the holidays.
I mean, this has been a region that's been in Lebanon too, but they've always shown that, you know, Beirut, it's also always been a lively place, right? It come back, right?
I think so. I mean, even throughout all of this, you know, I've had some amazing nights out, amazing days at the beach, etc. This country, even at the peak of war, always finds a way to have fun. So
it's incredible. Yeah. Best of luck and hope for peace there, for permanent peace there, please. So I'm in San Francisco. I've been celebrating Christmas here, currently in the outer sunset. We usually say sunny California, not so sunny, but really quite nice weather compared to Europe. So it's nice and warm, a little bit of rain, but it's good to be back in San Francisco.
Outer Sunset. I used to play a lot of soccer in that neighborhood.
Out there,
a lot of really good fields. Yeah,
a lot of houses here. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Our daughter lives in the inner Sunset, so she's not far from us here. Okay, let's dig in. Let's go back to a month or so where we're sitting. And this is by now, it's almost 2 months ago, I would say. We're sitting at a cafe or Soho House or something, having a cup of coffee. We come up with this idea. Why do you think we suddenly felt an urge to do this? We were like, yeah, that would be fun. Let's do that. What are your thoughts about that?
I think both of us really like to build, and it just seemed like a very interesting problem to solve for. And it was like, oh man, and I saw you struggling continuously with this, especially every time we had a podcast or anytime we needed to like write something up. And it was really like one of those how hard can this shit be moments.
Yes.
And then we realized, wait a minute, it's not as simple, but like. There was, I feel like, a nice balance between complicated and doable in a weekend kind of thing,
and valuable, you'd say, right?
And valuable, yeah. It was a really good balance, I would say.
Yeah. Let's make sure everyone knows where we're at. So we spent 4 days building a service called Just Release. It's a tool for content creators. You can check it out at justrelease.ai. But the basic idea is everyone who does podcasts and YouTube and so on, this service can build all the content around it, meaning all the texts, all the social posts, all that stuff this tool can build. So that's the basic idea. But yeah, back to what you just said. I think solving this problem was cool and, like I said, big enough, but also that we just love building. It'd be fun to see, can this be done in 4 days? I think that was a big motivator for me.
Yeah. Like for me, like just even working with you was interesting to me. It's like, okay, you know, what can we do? Because we've known each other for a while now. We haven't like actually built anything other than
we haven't been in the trenches.
Podcast. We haven't been in the trenches. And also, I mean, the whole idea going, you know, to Barcelona getting away from the terrible Copenhagen weather and just like hacking something together for a week. I mean, that sounds really fun,
Yeah.
to be honest.
And the big surprise, obviously, is that we're still speaking to each other. That's the big surprise after the hackathon.
It is. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Yeah.
Cool. Moving on. So before we sort of made the final call to get going, the first thing we realized is that we have to do a couple of things before. And we sort of cut that down to eliminating stoppers and doing some validation. And let's talk about stoppers first, because the problem is that when you do a 4-day thing, you can't have things that are going to take you a week to fix or 3 weeks to fix. You have to identify those blockers before, get them out of the way, even before you start building. That could be like a contract, some kind of approval, maybe payments, and so on. What do you think? We did pretty well on that, right?
I think so. I think there were more things that could have been done like on a technical level. To be honest, I was just busy like building the just learn stuff before that, and so I didn't spend as much time as I wanted to. But yeah, like specifically payments, right? Like payments was a really, really big one.
Yeah, totally. I think the outside technical, I think we got them done, right? We have to solve for payments before. And with technical, I mean, yes, you want them all out of the way, but you're also building, right? So there are risks involved. And let's talk about one of them, because we did get one we didn't foresee, and then it came, and it was the problems with actually transcribing YouTube videos, right? We thought that was going to be an easy problem to solve, and then it wasn't.
It wasn't, but just 1 second, just like to go back to the payments thing. Like this is something also that comes with, I think, like building startups in general. There's a lot of, like, for example, I think the biggest one a lot of people don't take into account that I see them when they're building their first app is App Store submission. They always think like, oh, we're just going to build this thing and over 2 weeks, and then we're going to release it by Christmas. And it's like, okay, you realize there's maybe if you're new, there's like a month of Apple just working on this, and then they're going to come back, and then you have to change a whole bunch of stuff and blah, 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 blah. So again, this is just stuff that and this is part of the decision making. Oh, we're just going to build this on web. How could we eliminate a bunch of things like that, right? And then payments, we just ended up using like, one of our companies that has already set up with Stripe payments, so that we're able to just like take payments right away, because that usually takes 2 to 3 weeks of KYC and blah, 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 blah.
I think app is a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, people are going to tell you, hey, app is no problem. It just takes 24 hours today to get approved. That is true, but not the first time, right? So, which is a little bit tricky. So it might be hard to do a hackathon where you actually release in the App Store, to do test flight or something like that, right?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like if you're going to do a hackathon, maybe with an already released app and you add a feature, right? Which maybe that's like a company hack or something to like get developers to work over the weekend. But,
so all the infrastructure is ready, and now you're building this new thing.
But web, I think is the way to go with these things. Like you can always put something up on the web. You can buy a domain and have something up in 1 minute. So
totally.
I love that about the web.
Yeah. Web is incredibly flexible, and we obviously used that. All that we did was everything we built was on web, so that's cool. The second thing, and I do think this is important too, and this varies, is a validation of what you're actually building, right? One thing is that you and I think something is a good idea, and especially if it's one founder, that can easily be a bad idea. 2, it helps a little bit, but you should really validate the idea. So what I did then was I found 5 people that I knew were in the target audience and had just a 5-10 minute call, pitched the idea to them and said, hey, is this something you would be interested in and would pay for? And they all said, yes, this makes sense to me. That worked really well. Was that, you think a validation was right? What do you think?
That was so good. I think for me, that validation was one of the most important things, not just to validate what we're working on, but also the fact that we brought some of these people on during to go like, okay, is this what you meant? Like, how, so that was really, really good. And then also, and I think we're going to talk about this in a bit, helping us figure out scope. I think that, even when we were sitting at the very, very beginning, we were still kind of figuring out like, okay, Yeah, we'll figure out the details. Figure out the details. But like, this is the main thing we want to do. And then the more we went into the details, the more we were like, damn, we need to make some really big decisions here on like where we want to go and what does this look like and what is it that we're actually doing. And I think some of these early interviews that you did really helped us get there.
Yeah, I totally agree. They were incredible, and like you say, you might have 5 ideas for features, and then realize that no, those three are important. These 2 are not. So exactly like enforcing some features and saying, yeah, no, that's less important. And also when you make those hard decisions on scope, that you say, okay, yeah, this is true. This is hard to build, but we have to have this. It's just you're going to make those choices during the days there, and with the validation, you have some data points to actually be able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this was to me one of the big things because I was a bit anxious about that. You know this, like about this, you know, what are we exactly building? So so that helped, and also it goes back to. I mean, this is something that I've changed a lot. We've talked about this podcast a lot. The whole distribution first kind of thing, before product first, which just went against so much of what I believed in for so long, which was like just build a product. But like, you need to, you know, it's like those salesmen that say like, if you have something you want to buy, I have something to sell, right? And thinking like that and finding your market first is just so important, and it should affect what you should be building. You shouldn't just be building whatever, you know.
No. You build for a market. You build for users. If nobody wants it, you really shouldn't be building it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think you establish a validation. I think we did pretty well, but it just sent a clear signal to everyone doing a hackathon. That is important. You have to get those out of the way, get the validation done. Incredibly important. The other thing I realized, and this wasn't really a problem for us, but I just saw it the day before, is be ready. So when you start at 9 a.m. or whatever you start, just be ready to go. In our case, this was the day before, but I just realized how much time we wasted on it. Was we had to go and get a laptop. We were on laptop short. So we go, 2 guys to like a media mark, and then you lose 2 people for 2 hours doing these things. And I could just see that if that had happened on the day off, like demotivation, like where were you guys? You at least lose like 2 times 2, that's 4 hours. It just becomes so important. So you have to be ready when you get going. And we were, right?
I think so. Everything was ready. Even the baguettes were there on day 1.
Yes. I'm not sure they were warm, but they were there.
They were good. You know what's funny? You've affected my nutritional habits. Like I never used to have, you know, a baguette in the morning with like cream cheese and like some what was it? Some I don't know, like some kind of cured ham or whatever. And like now that's what I do in the morning.
Oh, it's so amazing.
That's what I do. I'm serious. That's what I've been doing like almost every morning.
I might not have improved your health in a positive way, but I've improved your enjoyment.
Yes, that's, you know what? Sometimes you have to strike good balance. I feel like I was too much on the healthy side. So thank you.
Yes, of course. You're very welcome. We'll do that again when we go to Barcelona. It's the Iberico Hamon there is amazing. So yeah, so I think we were also ready here, but I just realized that when you go, you go. And every team member is ready there. If that's not the case, that could really influence your motivation, and obviously you lose time on it. So I'd be very, very careful with that.
I think even ready with talking about how you like to work. I think we were very good at that. Like just like, hey, you know, this is when we're going to talk, and I think we're going to talk about this again in a bit, like kind of how we structured it, but especially around communication. Like, hey, I'm just going to disappear into my thing, and I'll see you in a couple hours, and then we'll do a little update. So, but yeah, let's talk about that maybe.
We will. Yeah, and we're all different, right? So you work in a specific way, I work in a different way, and so on. Just be very transparent about that. Okay, we are gonna take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back, digging deeper into the hackathon. Let's talk about scope. I do think we got this right. But you really, really have to limit yourself. 4 days is no time, and you really, really have to limit yourself. What do you think, Hassan? We did cut some things, obviously. What's your overall thinking?
Yeah, we cut things, but we also added things, and we also, you know, the problem with like me and you are very similar in mindset of like ship, and
Yeah,
cut scope. But still, like once you've been building for a long time, there is a certain minimum quality that you need, minimum features
yeah,
that you need that I found it very hard to skip over. So like, you know, there were things that weren't truly 100% necessary for a product, but it was necessary for a respectable, let's just call it product. I'm like, you need to have
yeah, yeah,
this.
totally.
So this was to me, I don't know if something we can improve on or not. I really don't know. But like, yeah, but one thing is, I'll tell you that day one, when I walked upstairs, I had no idea what we were building. I really didn't. I really didn't.
Yeah,
I had a general idea, but I'm like, oh shit. I hope as the day progresses that things get really much more clear. And so on day one, and I think I don't know if you remember this, I worked on like the basic things. Like I built
yeah,
all the server side stuff. I built all the user accounts and the team
yeah,
accounts, and like this is what the dashboard looks like. And then I knew we wanted to import things from a podcast, so I'm like, okay, cool. Let me like work on the RSS feeds and bring those in, and the YouTube feeds and bring those in, and allow people. And this was so much momentum, which was amazing.
yeah,
Like it's like
yeah,
everything. Remember how fast things were moving?
yeah.
Because these we didn't have to make any decisions yet, and we didn't actually get to the product yet. Like
You
so
knew you
far,
were
it's
going to
just
use this, no matter what, without
yeah,
deciding specifics. You knew you're going to need this. Yeah,
totally. So this was really nice, but then things took a turn, I would say.
yeah, yeah. Then you have to make decisions. I remember one thing, and so let's just talk about this right away. And this is probably day two or something. You come down to me like really frustrated and say, "We don't have a user journey." I think was the word, right? Do you remember this?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and 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 it's so and this is a really good example of being at a hackathon rather than being alone in a room, because if your brain had taken you down that path and you were alone, you had become demotivated, you would start to do something else. But I was able to sit you down and say, okay, now let me explain exactly how this works. And it was like, dong dong dong, this is what the product does, this is why we do it, all those, just a reminder from the outside say, and you said, okay, let's go. Right, do you remember that?
I do. I was a little demotivated. I think I was just so much in the trenches,
Yeah,
lots of coding, etc. And then suddenly I kind of felt like I lost my path a little bit. Like, what am I
exactly.
building exactly? Because I had just built
Yeah,
15 different things, right? And I wasn't
yeah.
sure how it all got together. I just knew like,
Put it
oh,
together.
okay, there are pieces. So yeah, that was really helpful. That was
But
really helpful.
but that but it's incredible, right? Because this is what our brain does to us, right? We suddenly, when we sit alone, just lose it and go down a path. And that's what a hackathon, that's what a team can do, right? Get you back on track and keep reminding. We need reminding all the time of what we're building, why we're doing it, and so on. So yeah, really, really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so first of all, this was a night where we went out into the city, I think.
That might
And
be true.
we
Yeah.
were drinking a little bit, we were having a good time. And then
We
we
had been
had
drinking.
our we had our good old this was after after we did the podcast
Yeah.
and also we went out to the city and we came back and I was just so excited because for the first time, we had people coming in and using the product with Stoyan, etc. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
man, like we still don't have any generations. And I really wanted to just like get those generations out. And it worked so fast. And we had our first generations. We're like, oh, this is cool, blah blah. We were playing around with it at night, right? It was like 11.
Yeah.
Um, gin and tonics and generations. Uh, and then
The quality
you
is not
guys,
always quite there.
yeah, you guys went to sleep, and I just like continued on. Like I just couldn't stop. When you just like you have a new baby and you just built it, and it just like, oh
Yeah.
man, this thing is so cool. And I wanted to keep making it better and better and better. And then it got to a very good place. Like remember the next day in the morning, let's ignore the thumbnails for now. Like you're like, oh shit, like is this generated by the time? Like yeah. However, at some point, I'm like, okay, well, what else can I do with this thing?
Yeah.
Um, and I just like because it was bothering me that when we generate a new episode, there was like a title and description, but there was just like no picture. I'm like, okay, well, what if I just make that part of the pipeline too? And then I just started messing around and having fun and playing around with the prompts. And feeding the old pictures into this thing and telling it like copy it, and then it was coming up with all kinds of funny stuff. And it wasn't even I was
It
using
was
like a
funny.
very cheap thing. I was using like the Stable Diffusion from Stability AI, which is I wasn't using like any of the cool new APIs or anything that
Okay.
maybe would have done better. And I think in
Yeah.
the future, teaser, I think we will be able to build some really really
Like
good
so.
stuff.
100%. 100%.
But it was just me messing around. What can I say?
Well, there was a little bit of drunk coding going on. I don't think that made a lot of that made into production, but there was some drunk coding
No,
going on.
there was a lot of drunk coding going on, but I was having fun.
Yeah, it was. So moving on, talk about the 4 days there. We had also split it into days 1, 2, 3, 4, and this becomes important because certain things have to be done before you start releasing them and all those things, right? So I think we hit those most. I think we got into a little bit of trouble on day 4 when we suddenly hit a stopper, and that cost a little bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was actually on day 3, the YouTube thing. So long story short, we what was the issue actually? The issue was
It
that
was
we
just the
wanted to
transcribing
download
didn't work.
YouTube videos.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
transcribing was fine. The transcribing worked excellently.
Yeah,
It
as
was
long as you had the video,
downloading.
you could get the video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I needed to download the YouTube videos. And what I didn't realize is that YouTube was just being all crazy with their stuff. And yeah, and then like tried to solve it in 15 different ways or something. I think I wasted almost
yeah,
the entire second half of day 3 on it. And then one thing, which is a learning, I punted on it. I'm like, fuck it, we'll figure this out later. No YouTube for now.
yeah,
Remember?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's important because like the one thing you don't want to do is lose momentum, and we were
No,
starting to lose a little bit of momentum, right?
totally, totally.
So yeah, I think
At the
yeah,
same time, when you punted on it, we knew we were going to have to build it.
yeah,
So sometimes it helps just to wait a little bit and then come back to it because your brain starts going and ideas come up and so on. So it's fine. Talk
exactly.
a little bit about that. It's the things we did every day to keep that plan. So we started the day with a meeting. I think that's key. I guess you could do a meeting midday. We always met during midday too, just to do lunch and so on. Then we went live on YouTube at 8 o'clock every evening. These things really keep the pace going. Don't expect just to be able to run for 4 days without some really clear communication milestones. I think that worked really well, right?
It did, and I think like setting goals and setting, I don't know what to call them, like delivery goals,
Yeah.
is really
Yes.
good. One of my favorite things that DHH actually and his partner when they were building 37 Signal said they always
You're gonna have to explain who
communicated.
DHH is. Not everybody will know that. So go ahead.
David Heinemeier Hansen, creator of Ruby on Rails and Basecamp, um, also a very very vocal person with intense opinions.
Yeah.
One of the things they were talking about is they communicated by getting shit done. They
Yeah.
communicated by getting work done, and part of it was because they were an ocean apart or whatever, so they couldn't really have even like calls or meetings. So the only way they can get things done or communicate is like, hey, I got this done. And
Yeah.
so our deadlines were very similar, I felt, of like, okay,
Yes.
by the end of this day, we want to be able to do this. And so it didn't matter how we got it done, no matter what happened or whatever. It was like we just knew if we got there, that we're on the right path. And it also was very motivating to
Yeah.
kind of
Totally.
stick to
Totally.
that.
And don't forget that the team we had here, so you were building, Levin and I were also working on getting the word out and so on. I want to dig a little bit into that because that's key for both
Yeah.
discipline and motivation. Well, you need the discipline to get that out there. So we had 11 on the team. I was helping with that. And then we had Staffan, who was remote. He was up in Sweden, did an incredible job at this. So I wanted to dig a little bit into that because if you do a 4 day thing and you're expecting to get the word out too, it's a part of it is actually releasing. Then just remember that 4 days is a very, very short time and you have to pick channels that work within 4 days. You shouldn't do things that for the long term. That's not why you went on the hackathon. So I wanted to go through the things that we decided to do. So only pick things that you can do within the period of the hackathon. Something that affect 2 weeks later doesn't matter. So what we did, we went live every night at 8. And I think that worked okay promotionally. I have a following there, so it worked somewhat. But it was really good for discipline and create a structure and everything. So that way it worked really
Exactly.
well. We did shorts, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Also worked okay. Also fun to do, but they're a lot of work. So be careful with those. What really hit it home for us was some of the work that Staffan did. It was on Reddit. So Reddit is incredible to build hype, but you need people that know how to do it. And Staffan knows how to do it. I'm not sure I do. I'm not sure you do, Hassan, but he does. And it was incredible what he did. I think that brought us most of the traffic. And the final thing was sort of random PR. We got on Indie Hackers, and that worked really well. I want to keep talking a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about what we didn't do also, and then just talk, maybe we missed something we should have done. So let's see. So what we didn't do was socials for the product. So we didn't go out and make an Instagram for the product. We didn't go out and do a Facebook or a LinkedIn for the service. And the belief is that I don't think it's going to do anything within 4 days. For a long-term build, sure, but it's going to suck up time here to post there and so on. The other thing that we didn't do, which I think we should have done maybe, is paid marketing. And I could see that being an asset. But anyway, let's talk about the balance here first, Hassan. What do you think about the things we did and we didn't do?
I think, to be honest, like given it was a 4-day thing, first of all, let me just say, I thought it was a stretch. Like you added the goal of like, let's get a paying customer. I love it. Yes. I'm all for it. But it was like, that was intense, especially because, you know, like, let's just say the way I would do it. I think we talked about this a little bit, is you would, you know, put a website up and start talking to people like a month before and start building a big waiting list, and people will come in, and hopefully out of the, whatever, 500, 1,000 people you somehow gathered, sure, 10 will maybe pay for it, right? But we didn't do that. No, the waiting list started on day one. So
which is crazy, like, right? Which is wild.
It's really wild. Which is why I really thought, like, for me personally, I set my expectations low, not because I didn't believe like in you guys or the marketing, just because if that did work, like that was some really good stuff, whatever it was. And then when I saw Staffan talking about Reddit and all of that, and Discord and how he uses them, I'm like, oh shit, like they might actually get this to go. So I like it. It's a good balance. And like the stuff we didn't do, socials, I mean, what are we gonna have 20 followers on there? I don't think
there's no point.
That would have helped too much. The paid marketing stuff is interesting, but also that would have been, because if you think about it, paid marketing, that means we would have solved the problem for people that were looking for that problem on that weekend, and we only could have solved that. Like, what were we going to link to?
You have the website. You start with the waitlist just to get people to the waitlist.
I guess. Yeah. It's risky, but I think it's good. It's good. Yeah. But these are things we can. That's the thing. Like this is what comes next. Like this is something that I'm excited to talk to you about, and I think we haven't talked about. So this will be fresh, like talking about it on the podcast, actually, of like where we want to go next with this, specifically with marketing, really, but also in general, right?
I think the thing about paid marketing, I'm not always a fan of scaling businesses with paid marketing. It gets really expensive really quickly. But for getting, for instance, 20, 30, 40 visitors a day during those days that are super relevant because you did some targeting, that can be very cost effective, and you find the exact right people. So you're looking for podcasters, you're looking for YouTubers, you can find those people on Facebook and on LinkedIn and advertise them. Just get a few visits, just to get a flow in, to get the testing going. That could have been valuable, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Also would have given us like more people testing and stuff like that, and which is always good.
Yeah, totally. The other thing is like, hey, you want to create some hype, and I think we managed to do that on Reddit. Reddit is an incredible platform for that. But one thing I did notice is that when we went live on YouTube and those, you think, oh, people are excited and so on, but it takes a while to create those things. Doing that in 2-3 days is really, really hard. It just doesn't happen that quickly, right?
Again, I think a lot of this was, I mean, we were hacking together the social and marketing stuff too, right? Yeah. So it's always going to start slow, but that's the thing. I think we've built a lot of the infrastructure for what comes next, which is very exciting.
Cool. Let's talk about a little bit about the momentum here, because that is just so key. And we just talked about marketing too, but marketing is a part of that, because I do think the marketing, the awareness, the waitlist helps the momentum going. So I think that's a great. What do you think? We had good momentum, right?
I think so. I think you mentioned the daily podcasting,
Yeah.
going live on a daily. That was really good momentum. It was really good, like kind of stop line
It's a
for me every
commitment.
day, and a commitment of like, oh shit, like people are about to, Heine's about to tell me, so what did we do today in front of like a bunch of people, and I have to say, I can't say I didn't do anything, nothing worked, so better get it
No.
done. So that was very good.
It really creates
Yeah,
momentum and discipline. It does.
yeah, yeah. It's what I found most interesting is the balance between momentum or like whatever, releasing something, and like not punting on the important things. Like that
No.
to me was very interesting. At what point, so for example, on the YouTube thing, I'm like, okay, I punted on it for a little bit because like let's keep the momentum. But also you can't, like sometimes there are big problems that you just have to solve right now. You can't just keep going for the low
No.
hanging fruits. So that was interesting to balance it out.
Yeah, and that was a risk, right? And it did hit us a little bit the last day, right? Because it did cost a few hours in the last day because we had punted, but then you did figure it out. But we're a few hours late on the last day. But
Yeah,
this is when the real world hits, right? This is what happens. There's no way to avoid these things, and that sort of leads me into the next thing here, which is bottlenecks and dependencies, right? So you cannot avoid dependencies. There's going to be people on the team. I need you to have this done by this time. Otherwise, I can't do this. So there's no way of avoiding that, right? What you want to avoid is the bottlenecks where, holy shit, now the entire team is waiting for one thing and there's a bottleneck and these two people are now doing nothing because we're 2 hours late on something else. And again,
yeah,
we had some of that, I think, on the last day, but that was it. Just try and avoid that, because what happens then is you lose momentum and that's sort of infectious and then it just falls apart. So that is something to be really, really careful with those dependency. When there is we need this done by 4, otherwise we can't do the other thing. The other two are ready. That's a problem. And again, we had a little bit of that, but not much. What do you think?
yeah. I agree. I mean, I come from the software world, right? And it's like, that's what I always try to eliminate in my teams. The front end team should be working separately from the back end team. There's no
Yeah.
reason you're waiting for each other. You just,
No.
it's all about like agreeing on a contract, whether it's between
Yeah.
design and your software team, or whether it's between front end and back end, or whether it's between the business folks and the software team. There should be a contract in place of like, by the end, I'm going to have this and like, you're going to have this, and we can work separately on it. And I think we did a
Yeah.
very, very decent job at that, or a very good job, actually.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too. The other thing that is important with the momentum is just stay positive, right? If you get negative energy in the room there, it will mess things up, because there's going to be negative situations. It's just a matter of how you handle it, right?
I think so. And here's the thing: you're an intense guy. I can be too. In fact, I absolutely was on that weekend, because I was just like super coding mode. There were points where, if one of you would tell me something, I'm just like, sorry, I just can't deal with
Boom.
this right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to really focus on this and get it done. But it's very important to keep kind of like our egos at the door, especially on a day like this, and not take anything personal, and just kind of go like, we're just all trying to get to a common goal. And emotions are going to be running high. That's just the nature of it, right? So
Yeah, we didn't have any explosions, and there could have been, right? There really could have been. And the other thing about the positive is like celebrate the wins, not just the big
yeah.
wins, but also the small wins when suddenly the wait list starts going. Just keep reminding yourself, holy shit, this is amazing. I just create excitement. I think that's so important.
Yeah, if you're not having fun, like what's the point, really?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You
Um,
shouldn't be doing it.
there's what was it? I think it was BetterUp, one of the companies I worked at back in the day, and one of their core values was play, just play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So important, and I love that in the company. It made such a big difference.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we did manage to keep momentum, but because of all these, because of the of the commitments, because of the positive energy, because of we kept talking about progress and so on. So really, really important. Okay, with that, we're going to take a short break and we will be right back. So welcome back. And we are going to talk about if we made it or not. Did we actually get a paying user? And you know what? The answer is yes. When we sent the email out to the waitlist, it happened. We got 2 real paying customers. So we spent 4 days building this product. And when we finally set the waitlist out to people, 2 people actually went in and paid. I mean, that is pretty cool, right? What do you think, Hassan?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, actually. I think your data is a little outdated. I think we're at 4 now.
We're at 4. Okay, there you go. So this was right after, right? So now we are up to 4 people paying, which is incredible, right?
Yeah, and we're not doing anything.
No,
So,
exactly. This is all organic.
yeah.
And I mean, one thing I want to take away from that, Hassan, is the wait list. The wait list sounds like such a basic idea while you're building, and you're not really, but it's so important because you can start creating hype right away. And then I go up to Hassan and say, look, a wait list went from 12 people to 23 people now. It's amazing. So it's such a great motivator and a real tool to get people to sign up. That's what got us over the line in the end, as well as motivator.
Absolutely.
So really, really incredible. What do you think?
I'm a giant fan of waitlists. I think I've mentioned it a million times, even on the podcast before. Not only to just get those first subscribers, even for scope, even for figuring out what you want. Because here's the thing. You go and you talk to a bunch of people, or maybe you go and you put an article somewhere, or maybe you do some paid marketing ahead of time. And this version of the paid marketing got you 0 people added to the waitlist. But this version where you talked about how you want to add this feature got you 100 people, and you're like, oh shit, people really want this, right? Yeah. So it really helps you figure out what you want to do. And it also gets you, like with the project I'm working on right now, that was such a big motivator. We had big wait list. And we're like, oh shit, like all these people are just waiting for me to build shit. So like I really need to do it.
Incredible.
So huge fan of waitlist, yeah. And it worked for us. It really brought us over the line. Yeah, even at a short time, which was surprising to me.
Yeah, 4-day build, 4 customers, amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's we're gonna talk a little bit about the future of this thing. How are we gonna keep going or not? And one of the key things, I'll get back to it. One of the key things here was, are we gonna get a paying customer? Should we do something with it in the future? So we'll get back to that. But first, before, when it comes to a hackathon, would you do it again? And when would you do it? Under what circumstances would you do a hackathon? What do you think is a good idea?
First of all, yes, I would do it again. Absolutely. I think we built something incredible in 4 days, actually. And that's the thing. We're going to talk about the future. Like it came at a time where I think a lot of us were very busy and there was so much just going on in the world. So we were only able to put in those 4 days and not even do pretty much any follow-up. But wow, like the sheer amount of stuff we got done in these days was incredible. And also being able to just actually validate an idea and build something from the ground up. I think it might be my new favorite way to build a company to start, just at the very beginning, get everyone in the same place, lock the freaking door and throw away the key, and just build something incredible for a few days. It really
get off the ground.
Big fun.
And we haven't spent a lot of time on team here, but that is key, right? You need the people there. You need them in the room. We had one person remote, which worked fine, but you really need all the resources there, and you need people that can work together, facilities, all those things. That's super important. And I agree. I mean, if you're building something where you're actually able to build an MVP in a short term, and we spent 4 days. This was Friday to Monday, both days included. It could also be, hey, you arrive on a Sunday night and then you do a full week and end on a Friday night. That could also be a way to do it, right?
I agree. And all the things we just talked about, accountability, momentum, like you just get so much out of doing that. And again, you changed my mind. I was not a fan of all of this hackathon culture, but I think it's good for this. Yeah.
So the other thing I want to talk about here is the future. So are we going to keep doing this? It's a good question, right? Because we have to now, we're both busy, we're all busy, but we're thinking about, should we give this a little bit, fix some bugs, maybe do a little bit of paid marketing, and get the ball rolling on this. Well, what are your first thoughts on that? We reached the goal that we wanted to, meaning paying us. So there is something paying customer. So there is something there. What should we keep going, or what's the deal here?
I think so. I mean, first of all, the fact that we have 4 paying customers is very incredible. Even now, like, so these aren't just people that are supporting you or me in our journey after we posted or something, which maybe you could have argued for. Although I don't think they were.
These are people we do not know.
Yeah, and there are people that I was like, but some of them paid a lot of money. Like, some of them went for the annual subscription, and this was not a cheap product actually. So people want this. And in fact, what's funny is there's so much infrastructure of this. Like, we had to, there's a machine, and this machine, there's a 3D printer. And we spend so much time building all the different pieces to make the 3D printer work. But then we only had it like print one thing.
Yeah, we can do so many other things.
There's so much we can do because the 3D printer is there now, but we just we ran out of time. We're like, great, we built a machine, but we just haven't actually used it yet. And there's so much more we can do. Even in the stuff we already do with like title description, whatever, there's so much we can do that we haven't even started on. So, and I think it is very valuable, especially I was one of the, I would say like more, not pessimistic, but what's the word? Like, I doubted what we were building. I knew it was going to be good, but I doubted it for a reason. Like, I really wanted you to convince me, Heini, that this was important. And definitely by the end of the 4 days, I'm like, okay, wow, like this is some very, very serious value. Also, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. There was a very interesting parallel thing going on, right? So I'm working on like my company, Just Learn, and I had a lot of stuff related to how we process videos and transcribe and whatever. And then I worked on this, I worked on Just Release. And oh my goodness, that was so helpful, even for like my work with Just, because like all of this amazing technology. So I used that, took it back to Just Learn. Now I've been working, now it's been a month, more than that. Now there's a whole lot of new technology I have on the Just Learn stuff that I want to put back to Just Release. I go like, oh my goodness, like the Just Release product would benefit so much from this. And that's another thing that I think is going to come that's going to be very, very interesting. So all of that is also really cool. Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I pushed for, not jumping a little bit, pushed for a paying customer is that it is the ultimate validation, right? There's nothing that compares to having someone you do not know read about this product, maybe test the product and say, yes, I want to pay for this product. Then you have built something. I'm going to say everything else is BS, but everything else is a little BS. When you do that, at least you have ultimate validation. So if we're looking for some kind of validation during those 4 days, we have that. This is something people want.
Absolutely.
Cool. Anything else on the future? Any other comments? Yeah.
Anything else on the future? No, I think that's it. I think we really need to kind of just like go back and
Okay, cool. So we're moving forward to the final question that we do every podcast here. What are you obsessed with right now, Hassan?
Let's see. I would say like right now, but 2 weeks ago when I was still in Denmark, I've already mentioned music before on the podcast, but recently I have gone back. So I used to DJ back in the day, but recently I've gone all back in to DJing. I bought a giant DJ controller.
Holy crap.
I've been spending a ton of time just mixing music and learning new DJ tricks and playing around and producing stuff just for the controller. And I don't know, I'm just a weird guy, man. I'm just a nerd. Like almost every month now, I just have a completely new hobby that has nothing to do with what I was doing last month. So yeah.
But as long as you enjoy it and so on, that's good. Are we going to see you on stage or what's happening, or on Spotify? What's happening there?
Maybe. I'd like to DJ for the next Vivino Christmas party for sure.
Oh yeah, that's gonna love to. Yeah. That'd be fun. We would be excited about that. Fantastic. So that's something good to be obsessed. So let me tell you where I'm at. It's a little complicated. So I just hit 100,000 on YouTube. Celebrating that. That was amazing.
That's right. Thank you. Congrats.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and the silver play button award from YouTube is on its way. So look forward to seeing that. Thank you. But it also got me up there and thinking, okay, where should I be spending my time on this? And I'm really trying to figure out, should I continue with the podcast? It's really taking up a lot of resources, does not have great traction, especially not on YouTube. YouTube is a weird thing. They keep saying that they're good at podcasts. They are not. It actually messes with your YouTube channel because the short format and long format, they don't do well. So I might have to move it all to a different channel. So yeah, YouTube is amazing in many ways, but does not do podcasts well. So I've been thinking, hey, should I stop totally with the podcast and just bet on YouTube videos? So I'm trying to figure all that out right now, spending some time on that. But it really, the 100K there really did get me somewhat motivated on the YouTube videos, because I got there now without doing that much work specifically for YouTube. So what happens if you start pushing that again? Or would it blow up again? I mean, getting to 1 million for someone like me is probably pretty unrealistic, but you never know. If I pushed it, maybe I could.
Why not? Why not? I mean, your raw startup videos are some of my favorite videos on the internet. And I have, you haven't done these in a while. I think exactly. It would be a shame to let that go. And definitely, I would be looking forward to going back to that.
Yeah. So that's something to think about, right? Should I just say, hey, let's park the podcast for now and bet on the videos? Let's see where it goes. It's good to have a break, Christmas break, and do all these things. So
also, shameless plug, but I love the raw startup so much that actually, so building justlearn.com, actually technically platform.justlearn.com. It's in stealth right now. If you're watching this, it's fine. Go and play with it. But my very first tutor on Just Learn is Heini, and it's and the entire platform is or not the platform. That tutor is actually trained on raw startup, so you can ask anything about startups, about whatever it is, and it'll basically, in a matter of seconds, less than a second, scan all of Heini's content and give you an answer as if it was Heini himself speaking. So.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, yeah. Let's see how that goes with having Heini as a tutor. See what he comes up with.
I mean, yeah, but I need more raw startup content.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta keep Heini fresh.
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Hassan. Please make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you are, or listen to podcast, and leave a review and rating. It really helps. For those of you on YouTube, as we said, just make sure you check out Raw Startup. A lot of good videos about building a podcast. This has been Founders Weekly. Now stop listening, go build some.